The busy streets of Leicester Square in London witnessed, on an afternoon in September 1986, one of the most calculated encounters in the history of modern espionage. Mordecai Vanunu, 34, walked carelessly along the London sidewalks, oblivious to the fact that every step brought him closer to a trap, meticulously orchestrated by the Israeli intelligence elite. The former nuclear technician, who had exposed Israel's most guarded atomic secrets to the world, believed he was safe on British soil, protected by diplomatic conventions and Western civility. His tranquility revealed a dangerous naivety for someone who had challenged one of the most feared secret services on the planet. Born in Marrakesh, Morocco in 1954, Vanunu grew up in a Jewish family of 11 children, marked by the financial difficulties typical of emigrant communities. When he turned 10, the family decided to seek better opportunities in Israel, settling in Beersheba, an arid city in the Negev desert, far from the glamour of Tel Aviv or the historical importance of Jerusalem. Vanunu's adolescence unfolded amidst religious questioning and intellectual rebellion, characteristics that distinguished him from other young people in his community. His questioning temperament and his refusal to accept authorities without critical reflection foreshadowed the future conflicts that would mark his trajectory. After completing mandatory military service, during which he participated in the Yom Kippur War in 1973, Vanunu found himself at a professional crossroads, common to many Israelis of his generation. The need for financial support spoke louder than academic dreams, leading him to accept a job offer that would definitively change the course of his life. The Dimona Nuclear Center, officially known as the Negev Nuclear Research Center, represented for young technicians like Vanunu an opportunity for social advancement and economic stability rarely available in other areas. The facility, built with French assistance in the 1950s, operated under the most absolute secrecy, shrouded in layers of security and misinformation that kept its true function hidden from international eyes. Officially, it was a research reactor intended for peaceful purposes, a carefully elaborated version that Israel maintained before international bodies and allies. The reality that Vanunu discovered during his 10 years of service revealed an operation of much more ambitious and worrying dimensions, where sophisticated equipment and complex isotopic separation procedures evidenced that Dimona was not just an academic research center, but the beating heart of the Israeli military nuclear program, operating with a silent efficiency that directly contradicted all public statements by Israel about its atomic capabilities. Working as a maintenance technician on night shifts, Vanunu had privileged access to the most sensitive areas of the facility, including the underground laboratories where plutonium was processed for military purposes, witnessing a reality that few Israelis knew and that the government strove to keep hidden from international scrutiny. What he witnessed directly contradicted Israel's public statements about its nuclear program, revealing sophisticated equipment, complex isotopic separation procedures, and the constant presence of nuclear weapons specialists who evidenced a large-scale military production operation. For years, Vanunu remained silent about his discoveries, rigorously complying with security protocols and preserving the secrets he had sworn to protect, demonstrating a loyalty that would later be questioned when the circumstances of his life changed drastically. His transformation from a loyal employee into a potential whistleblower did not happen suddenly, but resulted from a gradual process of disillusionment and moral questioning that intensified as he understood the true magnitude of what he was helping to build. His dismissal in 1985, resulting from budget cuts and administrative restructuring, catalyzed feelings of resentment that had been silently accumulating, transforming internal questioning into open revolt against a system that had discarded him after years of dedication. The loss of his job represented more than a financial setback for Vanunu. It meant the destruction of his professional identity and social status, leaving him in a position of emotional vulnerability that would prove fatal to his future security. The man who for a decade had been part of one of Israel's most important and secret projects suddenly found himself excluded, treated as disposable after years of dedicated service, an abrupt transition that planted the seeds of a decision that would reverberate through the corridors of power in Jerusalem and the newsrooms of international newspapers. During the months following his dismissal, Vanunu carried with him something more valuable than any severance pay: 57 secret photographs captured clandestinely inside Dimona, images that unequivocally documented the extent and sophistication of the Israeli military nuclear program, providing visual evidence of facilities and equipment whose existence Israel categorically denied before the international community. The photographs represented definitive proof that the country had the capacity to produce dozens of nuclear warheads, contradicting decades of strategic ambiguity carefully maintained by Israeli authorities, who always denied or refused to confirm possession of atomic weapons as official state policy. The journey that took Vanunu from Dimona to the pages of the Sunday Times began with an apparently casual trip through Asia and Australia, during which he internally processed the magnitude of the information he possessed and the moral implications of keeping it secret or revealing it to the world. During his stay in Sydney, fate put him in contact with Oscar Guerrero, an Argentine freelance journalist with connections in the international press, who immediately recognized the explosive value of Vanunu's information and mediated contact with the prestigious London newspaper. Guerrero, experienced in high-impact international stories, understood that he was facing one of the greatest journalistic revelations of the decade, thus establishing the channel through which Israeli nuclear secrets would reach worldwide public knowledge with immeasurable geopolitical consequences. The Sunday Times, with its reputation for high-quality investigative journalism, treated the material with the necessary seriousness and caution, subjecting Vanunu's photographs and testimonies to rigorous verification by independent nuclear experts before proceeding with publication. The validation of the evidence by international scientific authorities confirmed not only the authenticity of the photographs, but also the accuracy of the technical descriptions provided by Vanunu about the fissile material production processes observed at Dimona. The publication of the report in October 1986 caused an uproar in the international community, revealing that Israel possessed a much more advanced nuclear arsenal than suspected, with estimates pointing to more than 100 warheads already produced, placing the country among the world's leading nuclear powers. The reaction of the Israeli authorities to the publication was immediate and overwhelming, with Vanunu being instantly classified as a national traitor and a priority target for exemplary capture and punishment. For Mossad, the organization responsible for foreign intelligence operations, Vanunu's capture became an absolute priority, not only as punishment for the betrayal, but as a deterrent message to future potential whistleblowers who might consider exposing state secrets of similar importance. The operation to bring him back to Israel would require sophistication, patience, and a deep understanding of the target's psychological vulnerabilities, demanding specialized human resources and meticulous planning that characterize the Israeli intelligence agency's most sensitive missions. The choice of Cheryl Bentoff to lead the operation was not casual, being the result of a careful selection based on her exceptional qualifications and perfect suitability for Vanunu's psychological profile as established by Mossad's behavioral analysts. In her 20s, this agent possessed a rare combination of natural beauty, sharp intelligence, and specialized training in seduction and psychological manipulation techniques, representing the perfect archetype of the undercover agent: young, attractive, seemingly innocent, but lethal in her professional efficiency. Known by the operational codename Cindy, and later identified as Cheryl Bentoff, she had been specifically prepared for missions requiring emotional infiltration and trust-building with male targets vulnerable to romantic advances. The operation planning contemplated every detail of Vanunu's psychology and circumstances, with Mossad analysts identifying that the former technician, isolated in London and traumatized by media exposure, was particularly vulnerable to approaches that offered genuine or seemingly genuine companionship and emotional understanding. Vanunu's loneliness, exacerbated by the constant pressure from journalists and the uncertainty about his future, created the ideal environment for the application of a sentimental trap, a technique known in espionage jargon as a honey trap, and considered one of the most effective for compromising targets who possess valuable information. Cheryl Bentoff assumed the identity of a 20-year-old American tourist, constructing a carefully elaborated persona that included detailed family history, personal interests compatible with Vanunu's, and a personality that would maximize her appeal to the target based on extensive psychological studies. Her preparation involved months of studying Vannunu's psychology, analyzing his preferences and emotional vulnerabilities, in addition to intensive training in approach techniques and trust building that would allow her to subtly manipulate his emotions without arousing suspicion. Every gesture, every word, every facial expression was calibrated to produce the desired effect on the mind of her prey, demonstrating the level of psychological sophistication that characterizes Mossad's elite operations when unlimited resources are dedicated to missions of critical national importance. The initial encounter in Leicester Square was meticulously orchestrated to appear casual and spontaneous, with Cheryl strategically positioning herself in a location where Vannunu would inevitably notice her, creating the illusion that it was he who took the initiative to make contact, a fundamental psychological inversion for the success of the operation. This technique allowed Vannunu to feel in control of the situation, lowering his natural defenses and increasing his receptivity to the advances of the supposed American tourist, who demonstrated genuine interest in getting to know him better, without appearing overly available or suspicious. The following weeks witnessed a calculated dance of seduction, where every encounter, every conversation, every moment of emotional intimacy was carefully dosed to maximize Vannunu's attachment without arousing suspicion about the true intentions of his new companion. Cheryl demonstrated genuine interest in Vannunu's ideas and experiences, offering him the attention and understanding he so desperately sought after months of isolation and media pressure, creating an emotional connection that seemed authentic but was entirely manufactured to serve the purposes of the mission. The technique employed was based on the psychological principle of controlled scarcity. The more difficult Cheryl made herself to conquer completely, the more Vannunu strove to win her trust and affection, intensifying his emotional investment in the relationship and his vulnerability to manipulation. The proposal to travel to Rome represented the apex of the psychological manipulation employed in the operation, presented as an opportunity to meet Cheryl's supposed sister and finally consummate the relationship away from the curious eyes of the London press, offering Vannunu exactly what he most desired: privacy, intimacy, and the possibility of building a new life alongside someone who apparently understood and accepted him unconditionally. The execution of the capture in Rome demonstrated the lethal efficiency of Mossad operations in foreign territory, with the carefully chosen apartment in the historic center of the city serving as the perfect setting for an ambush that would leave no traces or inconvenient witnesses. The presence of 3 male agents, probably specialists in containment and prisoner transport, ensured that Vannunu had no chance of resistance or escape, while the administration of the sedative drug was executed with medical precision to keep the prisoner unconscious during the riskiest phases of the extraction. The transport of Vannunu across the Mediterranean to Israeli territorial waters revealed a level of logistical planning that evidenced the importance Israel attached to the capture of its nuclear Traitor, with the use of an Israeli Navy vessel, the INS Noga, demonstrating that the operation had official high-level support. Vannunu's trial in Israel took place under absolute secrecy, reflecting the sensitivity of the matters dealt with and the determination of the authorities to control every aspect of the public narrative, with the sentence of 18 years in prison sending an unequivocal message to potential future whistleblowers. The extreme detention conditions imposed on Vannunu, including 11 years in solitary confinement, transcended simple punishment, constituting a form of psychological torture aimed at breaking his mental resistance and discouraging others from following his example. While Vannunu languished in a windowless cell, Cheryl Bentov smoothly transitioned to a new phase of her life, demonstrating the moral duality inherent in the world of espionage, with her relocation to Florida, where she assumed an apparently normal existence as a real estate agent. The comfortable life in Orlando, complete with family, a luxurious house, and respectable social integration, dramatically contrasted with the fate of her victim, creating a cruel irony that persists to this day and illustrates the rewards reserved for agents who execute sensitive missions with absolute success. Cheryl's transformation from an undercover agent to a respectable American citizen did not completely erase her ties to Israel, evidenced by the maintenance of a residence in the exclusive neighborhood of Kochav Yair near Tel Aviv, where many veterans of the Israeli security services reside. Vannunu's release in 2004 after 18 years in prison did not represent true freedom, but rather the transition to a more subtle form of confinement through restrictions that created an invisible prison that persists to this day, demonstrating that Israel considers some crimes against national security unforgivable. The Vannunu-Bentov case became a classic study on the honey trap techniques employed by modern intelligence services, demonstrating how emotional vulnerabilities can be exploited to achieve high-priority geopolitical objectives, establishing precedents that continue to influence international espionage operations to the present